So Peter, can you talk a little bit about the thought leadership events that we did in Hong Kong and Singapore with Net Guardians in May?
So in May we got together banks both in Hong Kong and Singapore at a round table to be able to both listen and talk about the impacts of fraud in Asia Pacific, both from a banking point of view, what are they seeing, what's impacting their day-to-day lives, and also from Net Guardian's point of view, what we're seeing both in Europe and therefore its impact on the Asian market as far as fraud and fraud prevention goes.
And what were some of the highlights of these discussions?
One of the interesting things is always that people in different regions think that their region is very different. But when it comes to fraud management and other things, yes, culturally things are different, but lots of the things are the same. So we see both in Europe and in Asia, false positives as an example being a huge impact. We see that the rise of digitization and the increase of channels to banking has had a huge impact in the number of transactions occurring and therefore the number of potential fraud that is at risk. And that's affecting both Europe and Asia equally. We also see that lots of the organizations are concerned with the length of time it takes them to perform an investigation on a potential fraud. And so there was lots of conversations about how do we lower that. And the same as with data. Lots of people talk about, we don't have perfect data, and that prevents them from starting potentially a project around how to remedy potential fraud. And this affects both big and small banks, are both by both Europe and Asian banks.
And Peter, we consolidated these findings into some interesting content. What would you hope would be the takeaways?
One of the first things we would hope that they take away from the conversation is that they're not alone. They're not the only bank with these concerns and issues, and it's not just an Asian problem. I think one of the other things that we want to take away is that, or hope they take away, is that it's not a competitive advantage to be able to fight fraud. It's a community thing. So banks working together to fight fraud is going to help not just them, but everyone across the market and their customers. So we hope that that we can continue to hold these type of roundtables where collectively we can share ideas on how to fight the criminal organizations and the individuals who are trying to commit fraud in the banking sector. The other thing is that they need to, that we would hope that they can learn is that there are multiple ways to attack the fraud problem. Vendors out there have got many solutions. Net Guardians is of the view that machine learning is one of those, but it's also in conjunction with behavioral analytics that will help us be able to fight that fraud in our view at the optimal level.